Okay, hi. Morning, everybody. So I'm Mike Hamers. I own Lightspeed. Well, it was commercial arts for about 22 years. I recently changed it to Lightspeed Design and Branding. I've been in graphic design for 35 years. The first half of my career, I was pretty much mainly a technical illustrator for Harley-Davidson, Desire Siri, Ball Aerospace. And at some point, I had done so many technical illustrations, I gravitated towards doing branding, logos, brochures, and eventually, now in this day and age, websites are our primary marketing tool because they're so flexible, inexpensive, and you can update them daily. And so I'm just going to go through some of the things as a graphic designer, how there's tons and tons of rules about websites, and I'm just going to talk about 5 that are kind of important to graphic designers, from a visual standpoint. Okay, so the first principle is to keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. So try not to make your users think too much. A lot of websites I've designed, people are hiding navigation on secondary or tertiary pages. Sometimes they can't even find the navigation. If you're going to a splash page and you're clicking around trying to figure out where the heck is the link, don't do that. People are going to get frustrated and they're going to leave. People leave websites. It's so easy. And don't hide your call to action. This is just one sample where his site was a disaster. He came to me, he wanted to hire Perry to do SEO for the site. Even Perry agreed. The original site was such a train wreck. The navigation was horrid. It was a very ugly flash site. And so, oops. So, in redoing the site, I unburied one of his more important things, watering tips. So it was watering tips for Colorado. He had that buried on like a tertiary page. And I think that's one way that some people may enter his site, on Google looking for tips. So besides the normal navigation, these are actually all buttons, and these are his primary services: lawn cutting, organic fertilizers, aerating, and watering tips. White space is not your enemy. White space is your friend. It helps organize your page. Just like the hallway in a house, you can't put furniture in it, but it's one of the important structural elements of your house. They help you get from point A to point B. And white space also helps provide structure and balance. So here's a site, logo design. This is actually before and after. Originally, he was hiring me to do his website, but his logo did not really convey what he did very well. So I had to work with him both on renaming and the logo. But you can see the white space is very important on this, and as well as color. So when I did his website, I wanted to make sure I also pulled the primary colors down into the sliders on his website.
Sliders?
It's like a little slide program. They would kind of, it was automatic, like a little Java script. Color is of primal importance. Color is one of those things, the human brain identifies colors first, shape second, and reads your content third because it uses multiple parts of the brain. Color helps set the tone of your personality and the emotions of your site, and it can also help lead the eye through your site, like to your call to action. So here is a site that I designed. So the logo, has very strong colors, and the assignment here was they wanted to sell the science, the scientist, and Colorado equally. So I came up with these little trios of little triptychs of images that help sell those things. Here's another site. So Schulz, this site I mean, this looks like a pipe fitter with all that black and the blue. The photograph is ugly. It doesn't look professional. She was a consultant. It doesn't look like prosperity. And she has such a beautiful name, Schulz, so I took advantage of, I can't get the pointer. Anyway, I took advantage of her name and worked with the sacred geometry, symbol. For a while we were using pinks and purples, and that it was too feminine, so we gravitated towards the green. And so when I actually implemented onto the business cards and the letterhead, you can see I call the blossoming geometry, where I pull it out even further just to make it more interesting. On the web fellow, oftentimes people have their brand colors, but sometimes the palette is a little bit too limiting. So in this case, I decided to come up with one more contrasting color, a bright orange, and a neutral. And so I use orange very sparingly. I use it as a top header, and then I use it in just subheads, and if I had a call to action, I would use it. That those bright colors you typically use sparingly, but purposefully. Here's another before and after. They originally hired me to do the website, but the logo in the upper left-hand corner, it looks like a matchbox. The font is horrible. It doesn't look cool. So first I changed the fonts, and then I had to expand the color palette. So then we really use color as a tool. They're into repainting cars, with candy apple, cherry colors and stuff, and so color is very important to them. But it was a little bit too bright, so I didn't use the really bright green on everything. But I wanted to remind people that some of these are actually WordPress templates that I'm just designing the graphics to, so they don't have to be custom sites. They can still be really economical. Spend $300 or something like having me dress something up so it no longer looks like a cookie cutter template. So fonts are awesome. Something I just became aware of is I thought you were stuck with Arial, Verdana, Times, and but no, Google has about 800 free fonts that there's a little way you can put code in your website, and you can actually have anybody on the planet who is looking at your website see the unique font that you are using to add personality to your site. These are just some of the handwritten style of fonts. So all of a sudden, it opens up a whole world of tools to a graphic designer and to your messaging and to the personality of your site by having 800 free fonts available to you to use. It downloads the font in the same way that your pictures get downloaded.
Does it slow down how quickly the site comes up?
Those fonts are so teeny tiny. They're almost nothing because they're pure code. So recently, I designed a site for Ronnie Moore. She, believe it or not, this is her first website ever. She was originally started off in the industry as doing typesetting for other advertising agencies in Boulder, and then as nobody was going for galleys of type because we were using hand waxers and rubber cement anymore. So she eventually went into book design for self-publishers and for universities. And so I made this site very much about a typographical feel, and this is where I learned about the whole font thing, that you can use other fonts. Some little issue here. And then as a way to show the layouts of the fonts, we have this layout page with PDFs that actually, you can actually read or look at an actual chapter of that individual book to get a feel. Sweet Greens, this is an interesting call to action. Their site, they didn't have content yet. So the big graphic at the bottom is kind of a call to action of getting samples of their product. And then the big thing right now is responsive web design. Because so many people are using iPads and phones. Your sites have to look good there. Sometimes they can modify your site, put things in the code that they will reconform to that configuration better. Or sometimes, like here, we're doing a little mini site with the little .mobi, where people coming to the site aren't going to be uploading large, 400-page documents to be printed from their phone. Chances are, if they're on their phone, they need to have a phone number, a link to the map, to email, or there is also a link to the full site. And then here's the last thing. This is an instance of where using a graphic design element. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I just
Take a deep breath.
But Corfida is RFID technology, and so the readers don't need a pure line of sight, and so that message, well, what the RFID code does, just goes out. And so I used the rings as masking templates of the expansion of the rings and make clipping paths. And then I wanted to tell, there's so much technology, there's so many uses of RFID technology. This was an association site, so I tried to show as much of the technology and as much of the wide variety of applications to tell the story in the web page.